It is a highway well traveled by Canadians, to say the least, as they drive through the United States, the I-75. One young Ontario woman who was taking that highway ended up in the back of a cruiser because she was Canadian.
They were taking away my car, and now I can't drive and I don't know what to do. I'm in Georgia.
Pretty upset, understandably. That's Emily Neal, who calls her arrest last month the most horrendous incident of her life. And she's looking for an apology from the officer who charged her. Well, this is a story that certainly caught our attention. Emily Neal out of the cruiser, back in Canada with family in Kleinburg, and with me this morning so we can tell you more about her story. Good to see you, Emily, and thank you for being here.
Good morning, Heather.
So let's go through what you went through. There you are back in Kleinburg, thankfully. But as I was mentioned there, your story is you were in Georgia, driving through Georgia. You got pulled over for speeding. And this is when the odyssey began. What happened when you handed over your valid Ontario license to that police officer?
She saw my license, and then she took a moment, looked down upon it, and she said, "This is not valid." And I was like, "No, my license has not been expired or anything like that." She's like, "No, this is a Canadian driver's license. I can't accept this. How do I know if you are actually Canadian or if this is a forgery? Canadian licenses aren't accepted in the state of Georgia." And I was just flabbergasted when she told me that.
How do we know it's not a fraud? Because she did ask you for supplemental ID too, didn't she?
Yes, I did have more forms of ID. I had my OHIP card on me, but my passport, I don't keep it on me when I'm traveling. I like to keep it back in the hotel or back at the home that I'm staying at. And she kept insisting on seeing my passport, which I didn't have on me. I had a copy of it, along with a copy of my birth certificate and Nexus card, all on my phone, but she did not want to see any of those.
Isn't that interesting? Because that's what they often advise you, to keep the original safe in case of loss or theft or something, and keep copies, and she wouldn't accept those. So then what happened?
She promptly told me that I was now under arrest, I could not drive in the state of Georgia, and that my car had to be impounded. So she put handcuffs on me, frisked me, and put me in the back of her police car, and we waited until a tow truck driver can come and take my car away.
And then she took you where?
She took me straight to jail.
To jail?
Yes, to jail, in which I was processed, booked, fingerprinted, mugshot, had to wear orange, the whole shebang, and I was in jail and forced to pay a bail to get out.
How long were you there?
They told me I was going to stay there until June 12th unless I paid the bail, but as soon as I was paid the bail, I was released after approximately 3 to 4 hours.
This happened, though, the beginning of April. So they were telling you April, May, mid-June? Had you not paid that amount?
Yes, it happened April 2nd, which was my birthday.
Oh, my goodness. Not such a happy birthday. So there you are. You're all by yourself. You're a young woman in jail in Georgia. I mean, what are you thinking? What are you feeling?
I was terrified. I'd never been in that sort of situation. I kept hearing all these noises from other people who were locked up, and I was just kept thinking, oh my gosh, is something going to happen to me? Am I going to get hurt? And no one knew where I was. If it wasn't for the Snapchat feature, Find My Friend, no one would have known that I was in jail.
Yeah, so explain that, because we had that video. That video that we'll show again. You were able to grab some of that when you were in the cruiser, and you sent that back to people at home?
Yes. I had my cell phone on me. I was not hiding it. The police officer let me keep it. And my cell phone was kind of old, so the GPS location was not working, so I couldn't find myself. But I was able to send a Snapchat to friends to be like, hey, I don't know where I am. Help me, get me out of jail. And through that app, they knew exactly where my phone was located. They were able to find me and start connecting me with a lawyer and trying to get me out.
So it's interesting. We were looking at the Georgia Department of Driver Services website. I mean, it's really clear, Emily. This is what it says. Non-U.S. citizens holding a valid foreign driver's license are allowed to drive in the state of Georgia. I mean, was this officer just mistaken? Or what happened? How is it that you're talking to me now? How was it able to be resolved?
I would like to think that she was mistaken. I hate to think that people were actually targeting Canadians. But in the back of my mind, and from stories that I've now been hearing from so many people, I think this particular stretch of highway, they are targeting Canadians because they know they're not going to come back to protest any of the fees. So they can easily make some money off of a quick speed trap. And then when they saw that I had an invalid license, they thought maybe they could make more money because the money goes directly back to that county sheriff's office.
How much did you end up paying?
The bond was set for $880 USD, but with fees and everything like that, it came to $927 USD, and then it cost me another $200 USD to get my car out of the impound lot.
Wow. So here you are, you're in the hole, you've had this experience, and is everything done now, or are there still matters yet unresolved for you?
Thanks to so many countless people in the United States and the Canadian consulate, this matter is almost completely resolved. My record has almost been expunged, which is great, and they are mailing me a check with my bond money back.
Well, that is good news, and it'll be all hopefully in the distant past. And yet, it's such a vivid account. And the I-75, how many untold millions of Canadians take that highway heading down to Florida or wherever? What's the lesson of your story, do you think, for fellow Canadians, Emily?
I would say always be aware of the law. You do have the right to have a Canadian license, and you have the right to call the Canadian consulate. I was denied that right, but that goes against the Vienna Treaty. That does not count as your one phone call. They have to call them, and the Canadian consulate can easily clear things up for you.
Quite a
and
price.
Always make sure.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Always make sure.
Yep. You have the hard copies of your documents as well. Because the phone, having them saved, it won't cut it anymore.
Well, it certainly didn't in your case, you're right. I'm glad you're here to tell us all about it. What a story. Thank you that we can learn from you. And best of luck clearing the record and getting this all over and done with. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you. Have a good day.